Your plans? Today it's dinner with the parents at your spot.
We gotta come back here.
Now, their spot. Or you're on the edge of your seat at the game.
Come on, just one time.
And it's the one. Or maybe you're catching the next flight to...
Now boarding flight 1850.
Oh, that's you. The choice is yours. And when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it. You're finally at that hot new spot. The one your friends keep raving about. Sitting across from your date. It's going...
Another round?
Really well. And that dish you've been dying to try? Oh, it's headed your way. You can smell it, hear it sizzling fresh off that skillet as it comes closer, closer, and served. Go ahead, enjoy. After your phone sneaks a bite first. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
There's never been a better time to find out why BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. Download the BetMGM app and place a $10 moneyline wager on any NBA playoff game. If either team hits a three-pointer in the game, you'll win $200 in free bets, regardless of your wager's outcome. Just use code LIBERTY200 when you make your first bet. Sign up now and discover BetMGM's daily promotions, boosted odds specials, and more. Download the app or go to BetMGM.com and use code LIBERTY200 to win $200 if either team hits a three in any NBA playoff game. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years of age or older to wager. Pennsylvania only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days from issuance. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, help is available. Call 1-800-GAMBLER in partnership with Hollywood Casino Morgantown.
Hey, it's Christine from Storyworthy. Today on the show, comedian Hannes Phinney shares a story about visiting his mother-in-law ill with coronavirus.
My mother-in-law in Georgia got the coronavirus, and she was in the hospital for 2 months. A month on a ventilator, a month in the hospital. This is part of the reason that you go crazy when people are like, what? It's the mortality rate. It's like, it's not just the mortality rate. Even if they don't have long-term effects, which they very well might, you also just suffered for 2 months alone, unable to see anyone. Nobody listening to this needs me to tell them to take the coronavirus seriously. But if you don't, I will come to your house and slap you so hard.
Today on the show, Hannes Phinney, my former co-host, shares a story about crossing the country to visit his mother-in-law. Stay close.
Hey, it's Hannes Phinney. I want to say happy anniversary, Christine. The 10th anniversary of Storyworthy. Yay!
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. And whether you're a longtime fan of the show of 10 years or you're a brand new listener, welcome to the show. Now today, you guys, I have a very special guest. We are checking in with my friend and my former co-host, Hannes Phinney. Hi, Hannes.
Hi, I'm here. Oh my God, another human being. I can talk to another person and see them. I'm coming to you from North Hollywood, the home of America's most famous Karen, the Trader Joe's, the brand new Trader Joe's in North Hollywood. Karen, who just went nuts. Remember, this is about 3 weeks ago.
I do remember. Now, I didn't know that was a brand new Trader Joe's. Where is it?
No, it's up at Victory and the 170. Yeah, there was a mall up there. You know, there used to be a Macy's up there. This is good content for anyone outside of the valley. They're like, why are you talking about any of this? There was a very old mall from the 50s, and the 1994 earthquake destroyed most of it. The only thing that stayed was a Macy's, which was like an island of retail in the middle of nothing. So after, well, let's see, what is it, 30 years or almost, they finally have built they're building new condos, of course, which will be way overpriced and paid for, filled with 20-somethings that I'm like, city is filled with really expensive, brand new apartments where the rent is at least 2,500 and up, and everyone in there is under 30. And you're like, how many people's parents could be paying this rent? Because there's no way. There's no way. There's thousands of
Well,
people paying
I know what you mean,
$3,000,
but
$4,000 a month.
I know I have a 2-bedroom apartment, and across the hall from me, there's a 1-bedroom apartment that just went on the market for $2,400 a month. It's a 1-bedroom.
Yeah.
I mean, it is wild. But that being said, Hannes, you have to admit things are going to be changing big time now because there's a ton of apartments for rent in Los Angeles, and there's going to be so much office space to rent as well
Oh.
because people are going to just be working at home, right?
Well, you would hope so. I mean, you at least live in a building that was built, I believe, before 1975. Actually, your building was built before 1875. But that means it's rent controlled. It's like they tear down a building or they tear down a warehouse, put up a brand new building with no rent control. Yeah. So it's like,
I see.
but yeah, $2,400 for a 1-bedroom is insanity. Yes, you live in a nice neighborhood. Sure, it's Beverly Hills adjacent. That's not Beverly Hills adjacent.
All right, listen, Hannes,
Yeah.
I'm so happy to talk to you. I miss you.
Yes.
And for our listeners out there, listen, I say our listeners, but it's true. You were with me on the Storyworthy podcast for the first 6 years,
6 years. That's right.
which is a lot of time. And we did a lot of shows, did we not?
We did a lot of shows, and mostly they were good.
I think so too. I go back and I listen, and there are definitely things I would have done differently if I started all over again. But I think a lot of it was really, really done well. We were with Sideshow Network. You remember being with Sideshow
Yeah.
Network and recording over in Flippin' on Sepulveda by
Right.
LAX.
Well, before that, let me go back enough to what I think was a pivotal moment, which is when we were recording in your old apartment before we got to Sideshow Network. And
that was a nice apartment, by the way.
That was a really
and
nice
that apartment is probably now $4,000 a month.
Yes,
But
yes,
anyway,
it is. It had
I
stairs
digress.
and an upstairs and a downstairs, and maids and stuff. It was awesome. Wayne Fetterman, the great Wayne Fetterman, the fabulous comedian, actor, was the guest, and this is very early on, and I think this was formative of our style because he said after about 15 minutes, "Why are you guys yelling?" I just remember him going, "What? Why are you yelling?" And I think we had the idea that the louder we yelled, the louder we'd be in people's computers. And that was that was early. But yeah, Sideshow was a beautiful place in a beautiful building right next to the LAX, the Los Angeles International Airport. The worst possible location for anything except going to the airport.
Or except when Kelly Carlin was on, because Kelly Carlin only lives like 2 miles from there.
That was okay. It was worth it. That one person.
But wait a minute. I want to go
Absolutely.
back to Wayne Fetterman.
Yeah.
Because actually, when we interviewed Wayne Fetterman, that was in the apartment I'm in now. So it wasn't the first apartment.
Oh, it wasn't the very
in that
first.
apartment.
Oh, okay.
No, it was in this apartment. And he did say that. He said, "Why are you yelling?" And in my heart, I just like, I felt like just in that moment, I felt like crushed. Like, I don't know, Wayne. I don't know. Like, I just felt like, because see, I come, as you know, from that background of like commercials and pitching and hosting. And I didn't realize you could just talk. I guess I always thought you had to emote, like people do in plays. They emote. You don't need to emote.
Yeah,
if you're on
we were
film.
reaching for the back row of the Amundsen Theater while sitting in your kitchen. So that was not so. The Amundsen Theater is very large for those of you who don't know Los Angeles. I was going to say, though, it's funny because I think now I've tried to listen to other podcasts and it's very hard because I think now people are under emoting to the point where it's like a lot of like, okay, this podcast is about velvet and we're going to talk about velvet and it's like they never change the pitch of their voice. There's no human being behind it. And I'm like, why don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
Listen, though, man, as you know, I mean, you must know there are a lot of really good podcasts out there.
Oh, yeah.
And there's now,
I used to think there were a lot of podcasts, and now like every person who also has a TV show also has a podcast, which seems greedy.
Well, I know what you're saying, but honestly, Hannes, there's only about 1 million podcasts, and that's a really small number. No, I'm not kidding. Because first of all, there's only 1 million podcasts, and only about 10,000 are actually producing. Most of them are just stale. They do 2, 3 episodes and they quit. That's what most people do. I think it's like 80% of
Okay.
people quit after 3 episodes. But also, let's say there's 1 million, but there's like 34 million YouTube channels.
Right.
In other words, podcasting is definitely in its infancy, and I always encourage people, if they want to podcast, go for it, because
I see what
this
you're
is
saying.
it's going to be better to start today than tomorrow. It's going to be better to start in 2020 than 2021, just because it really is growing. And obviously, soon everybody will have Bluetooth in their car or in their Uber or wherever.
Or as
And
I've always said, they'll just have a chip in your head. Eventually, it will just be, there won't be a device. It will just be part of your brain, and you'll click your head to the side, like, and you'll change channels
okay,
that
listen.
way.
I think everybody wants to know what you're up to, man. What are you doing? What are you up to? I know you flew recently, which
Yes. Well,
I canceled. I canceled a trip to see my mom because I I
no, no,
can't.
no.
I can't fly right now. I got a
Well,
daughter. I mean, I just don't want to risk anybody's life, as it were.
yeah. So one of the reasons for me to fly would be to if I got an unbelievably well-paying and very important acting job, and that did not happen. That did not happen. So the other thing was that my mother-in-law in Georgia got the coronavirus, and she was in the hospital for 2 months. And
Wow.
she did eventually get released from the hospital. 2 months, a month on a ventilator, a month in the hospital. This is part of the reason that you go crazy when people are like, "What? It's the mortality rate." It's like, it's not just the mortality rate. People recover, and then even if they don't have long-term effects, which they very well might, you also just suffered for 2 months alone, unable to see anyone. It's insanity that people like, what? It's no big deal. Nobody listening to this needs me to tell them to take the coronavirus seriously. But if you don't, I will come to your house and slap you so hard while wearing a mask. Anyhow,
Wait, I want to
so
hear this. I feel so bad. This is Sherry's mom, your wife's mom.
yeah,
And how old was she? And
she's
I can't believe
84, I
she's
believe.
84, my mom's age, right? And she came out of it, because often when they put them on ventilators, often they don't come off that ventilator.
No, and age. This is, as everyone knows, one of the weird things about this virus is the fact that age doesn't seem to enter into it. That actor just died. He was 41. People died in their 20s. So she's already beaten cancer. She's tough. She's a tough woman. But you're like, oh, this is not good. And she survived it. And she, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't think doctors can explain why some people are surviving it and why some people are not surviving it. And so we had to go there and help take care of her. And just let me just say about flying, it was weird because I had a lot of anxiety beforehand, less anxiety once I was actually doing it. But we flew out of Burbank, thank God. That is a godsend. If you're not from Los Angeles, you don't want to go through LAX. That's a wasteland even without a pandemic. So it was Southwest, and they only, it was every other seat. There were no middle seats filled, and you're like, this is good, this is good. And then you look and you realize that, but there's a guy sitting a foot in front of you, and a guy sitting a foot behind you, and you're in a tube with recirculated air, and you're like, I don't. So you keep the mask on the whole time, which is, by the way, if you've ever drunk, like, we snuck, I bought these bottles of really cheap Jim Beam apple whiskey. They were like $1. And
Oh,
you know what?
gross.
Oh, it's grosser than you could possibly think. I actually like Jim Beam honey whiskey. The apple whiskey, just like you took a Jolly Rancher and dissolved it like in a NyQuil or something. Just
Oh
horrible.
my
So
God, that is so foul. Wait a minute. Why did you buy this?
it was $1.
I know, but is it worth putting something in your mouth for $1 that's like acid?
Hey, you know the answer to that better than me. Oh, I tell you, back in my day. How do you think this podcast got started? Why I oughta.
Hey, man, this podcast would not have gotten started without you, Hannes, because I definitely had the guts, but I didn't have the courage. And you are the one who got me. You propelled me to be able to
No,
like
well, that's
be
very sweet of
myself.
you to say.
No, but it's true. If it wasn't for you, I would never have been here at all because I would have been afraid. But when you start a podcast, if you have a good friend with you, it helped. It
Well,
really helped.
that's
Well, listen,
very
I want to
sweet
go
of you to
back
say.
though to
And
Sherry's
yeah,
mom,
let's
and
go back.
I want
Yeah.
to talk about what did you like when you went there? Where was she, and what did you talk about with her? Like, did you say, "Oh my God, what the hell was going on with you?" For a month in the hospital, 2 months in the hospital without being able to see your loved ones. I mean, it's so crushing.
Yeah, but is that the kind of conversation anyone has with their parent where they actually go and have, or parent-in-law? It's like you don't, you talk about all the normal stuff. You talk about the hospital bit, but it's not like a Tennessee Williams play where you're going to like sit down. That's like, now that we've had this experience, let's really talk about our emotions. That's not how human beings work.
I see.
We're repressed people, all Americans, I think. So it basically, I will say this: while we were there for 2 weeks, she got so much better over that 2 weeks. The first day, she was very weak. First 3-4 days, just very weak, and just got so much stronger. As surprisingly, you're like, oh, well, now you're your old self, and
So she
just
was in her home, or did you take her from the
she
hospital?
No, she was released from the hospital before we arrived, and so we were going so that she wouldn't have to stay in the house, alone. Should
Yeah,
people
because she
checking on
have
her,
to have
but
a caretaker, right?
well, that's not what she thinks. She's very independent, and it's like, no, I don't need that. And but I know that she was glad that we were there, and we were able to. Here's a frustration. We were trying to figure out this. This is really dumb, but there's a thing called a transfer bench, which is a way that you put in a bathtub.
Hmm.
So it's half in the bathtub, half out of the bathtub. So if you're elderly, you can get on it and sort of slide over, and then you're sitting in the bathtub. Not in it, you're sitting in a chair. And she has this beautiful. His house was first sold in like 1880 or something, so nobody knows how old the house is. And she's got this beautiful claw-footed bathtub, and it's just 4 inches higher than every other bathtub made since 1935. So to
Wow.
try and find something that fit it, it was an ongoing struggle that was never fulfilled because they do not make these things tall enough to go. Yeah, and it was just it's just weird. I mean, this is the governor who a few days ago passed an executive order that said that towns and counties in Georgia cannot require masks. Like he's preventing them from saying like this mayor of Atlanta was like, you must wear masks. And he said, nope, nobody gets to tell anybody in Georgia to wear a mask. He's the worst. He's the guy who cheated. He was the Secretary of State, and remember Stacey Abrams, black woman who should have been governor of Georgia. This guy basically screwed her out of that, and now he's screwing. He's the worst. And Kemp, I think it's Brian Kemp. I don't know if he's related to.
Yeah.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
just and this.
And
Yeah.
so would your mother-in-law talk about him at all, or is that
No, no,
another
no,
family thing
no.
you don't really talk about
No.
politics?
She is furious with all these people. She hates Trump. She watches CNN or MSNBC all day long. She cannot stand any of these people. So there was none of this. Like somebody might think like, oh, they'll be conservative. Oh, she's not conservative. And this is the thing that I think people who support Trump don't quite get is like when you've got people who are 80 and 90 years old in this country who are actively rallying against the president, you're a bad president. Nobody wants to respect the presidency more than somebody in their 80s. And she's like, no, these guys are the worst. She hates Kemp. She hates all these guys. And as well she should.
So then you had to leave her there because you guys have to come back to LA. So you left her there, and now what? Is she have a caregiver, or what's going
I
on? And how's Sherry? How's your wife?
she's okay. I mean, she worries. She thinks maybe We should go back again this before school starts this fall. She's a teacher, so she'll be, thank God, teaching online. I know I saw a quote from you the other day, Christine, about how parents losing their minds because LAUSD is not going to be in the classroom. But I'm glad because just the idea of gathering a bunch of kids are just germ factories anyhow. The idea of gathering together just seems crazy. But yeah, so she's.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, that would be crazy. I understand that. I get that. I was just joking,
Oh,
like,
I know.
kids aren't going back to school and parents aren't going back to sanity, just because it's really challenging. I only have one child, and maybe that's even harder because if you had multiple children, then they can at least entertain each other and be quarantined together. But my daughter, Alabama, she's lonely, man. It sucks.
No, I
I
get
feel
it.
so bad
It's too
for
bad you
her.
can't just buy another puppy. Like when your dog is lonely and you go, you know
Yeah.
what? I will get a second dog for it to play with. So get on that. Just adopt somebody, and I mean quick. Um, yeah,
Okay, so then you guys flew back. You got back to
yeah.
LA, and was the flight back any different or?
The only thing that was different, people did seem to be, for the most part, people were wearing masks. But again, you'll be at the gate, like 40 people are waiting for the flight, right? And 3 people aren't wearing masks. And you think to yourself, you're looking around here at all these people. What kind of ego do you have to think that you're the one who's right? What,
Yeah.
it just doesn't make any sense.
It's just such a stupid hill to die on,
Yeah, to
literally.
literally die.
I
No,
mean,
no.
to not.
And just, yeah, and all these people, by the way, were over 50. So it's like, oh, you guys are really geniuses. Yeah. The only weird thing about flying back is we had, unfortunately, there was no direct flight from Burbank. So first we went out through Vegas and then came back through Oakland, which means 4 planes instead of 2. And you're like, oh, this is great. Let's just up the odds here.
Okay, but can
Yeah.
I tell you something? I have a very, I was a flight attendant, and I have a very good friend
You
who's
were
a
a
pilot
flight
for
attendant?
Delta.
What?
And
You went to
Joe Roman, my
Tonga?
buddy,
What? Yeah, go ahead.
he's a captain on, he's a captain on 757s, and he says that the air in an airplane is cleaner than the air we breathe right now outside. How about that, Hannes?
I hope he's right. I'm willing to believe him.
It is not recirculated. I don't know why they don't make more of a big airlines should be putting out this message. They should be talking about how that air happens in an airplane. Like every 10 minutes, the air in an airplane is totally refreshed from the air outside.
See,
Every 10 minutes, all the air is out and the air comes from the top of the airplane and it pushes down. The ventilation pushes down and it goes out. I don't know if it's out the bottom of the airplane or the butt of the airplane, the tail of the airplane, but that air is constantly moving. The air is not going back and forth.
See?
It's not moving like
Now
this way. It's going straight down
you're
and
absolutely
out
right.
of the plane. And he's been flying. He never stopped flying. And his wife, Jody, who's one of my very best friends, I asked her, I'm like, Jody, aren't you worried? And she's like, no, not at all. Joe is totally safe. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he doesn't come out of the cockpit, and he wears his PPE and he says the air is totally fine in a plane.
You're absolutely right. It's like it's fresh air all the time. I didn't know that, and I'm smarter than most people. It's like I was convinced because I guess the reason we think it's recirculated is we think we're flying where there is no air, and I guess that's impossible. When you think, now that I said it, I feel like that's pretty dumb because we're not flying to space. But I guess you don't think that there is any. You think of yourself in an airplane as an amateur as being sealed off completely from the world, and you're saying that's not true, which is a good thing. And maybe they're scared that people will go, wait a minute, did you open? You know how stupid.
Yeah.
This pandemic has revealed how fundamentally stupid people are. So some people are going to be like, wait, you mean there's fresh air? You mean you opened a window? That's the only way they can comprehend is that you cracked a window like an old Dodge. Oh,
So the danger definitely is still person to person and being in close proximity in the
yeah.
airplane itself. That person to person could be dangerous, but it's not the actual recycled air. It's not recycled air.
Yeah. Oh, I never finished my story about drinking the terrible, terrible whiskey so that I would sleep on the flight. And
God.
then
Okay.
it's the seat's not comfortable. I always turn around and have my face squished into the seat. And the point is when you drink bad whiskey and pass out from it and have the mask on over your beard, it's not comfortable. And so people should stop complaining, because I woke up, I was like my face was all like squished and the hair had been pushed up into my nose. I was like, this is all just awful. So,
My friend Jacqueline Marfuji, she bought an entire hazmat suit, and she wore a whole hazmat suit on the plane, the whole thing.
friend of mine, she Stella, you may remember her. She
Yeah.
had a picture. She was flying and she had goggles and the mask and the visor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I have the visor.
I like the visor idea. I like it. Oh, you know what I was going to say? Actually, you reminded me of something when you were talking about the non-recirculated air in the airplane and it being cleaner than the air we're breathing. I was at the grocery store yesterday and I realized I'm going to wear a mask to the grocery store for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
No matter when this goes away, it's just like when you start thinking of people as germ carriers, you realize you go full Howie Mandel and you're like, oh my God, this is horrifying. And yeah, and the air in Los Angeles here sucks. I should be wearing a mask all the time. It's not, I used to make fun of the Asian tourists at my job at Universal, and now I'm like, you guys are geniuses.
Yeah, you didn't make fun. We didn't make fun of them, but it is true. Like we've seen in Japan, like in Tokyo, in the bigger cities, people have been wearing masks forever, it seems.
No, they're absolutely right. And do you think I didn't make fun of them? What else do I do in my life? I make fun of everybody and everything.
What's going on at Universal Studios? Because you've worked there for a while now, and Universal
10 years.
Studios is, of course, one of those big parks that, shuts down. And then, I mean, I can't even imagine the scale of the shutdown and then the scale of the reopening. It just must be unbelievable.
Well, thank God the reopening is nowhere on the horizon. And I'm so glad I live in California, where we have a governor who's smart and so handsome.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I've seen your post about how sexy he is.
He is. Did you see this? My friend Ariel on this, she said, Gavin Newsom. I don't see why people aren't calling him the Governor.
The Governor. Or you can't, what's the Cuomo? The Cuomo, Cuomo sexual. and it's like, Cuomo is not sexy. He is like some weird, he's a good guy, but he looks like a mob boss. Or a guy who runs a dock.
Speak for yourself, Hannes. Tony Soprano was sexy.
Oh, that sexy bastard. Yeah. Bald and fat. It's true. So in Florida, Disney World and Universal are non-union. And I guarantee you that's the only reason that Disney World is open right now. And that just seems like an absolute recipe for disaster. And I'm certainly not the first person to say that.
So wait a minute, but the Disneyland out here in California, they're not unionized either, are they?
I don't necessarily think so, but Universal is, thank God.
Okay, thank God. But wait, real quick, Disney is not unionized for sure. Because remember, like I've done a couple commercials for them. You've done some commercials. They're always non-union. I think everything about Disney is non-union.
I think that's true. So I think the difference between Disney World and Disneyland is probably Gavin Newsom versus DeSantis, that fucking idiot out in Florida.
Yeah.
And they're not going. The state is not going to allow. And I mean, they shouldn't. Disneyland, Universal, Knott's Berry Farm, they should not be open right now. It doesn't make any sense to have, because a slow day at Universal, a day where you're like, I don't know how we can afford to keep the doors open, is when you have 5,000 people in the park. And that seems like too many.
Well, yeah, but if you think about concerts, like you go to the Hollywood Bowl, there's 18,000 people there. 5,000 is a small amount. I'm just saying. No,
technically it is, but in the pandemic, do you think, oh, this is great, I'm only around 5,000 other people? In this situation, that seems like that would be a pretty high number. It just, and of course we have, part of my job is always like telling people they're breaking the rules. And you know what? I don't even want to talk about it. It's just, thank God for me personally, Universal is not open yet. I think any of those things, we don't have concerts here. We don't have, it's weird because you can do concerts. I just saw something on the Today Show or CBS This Morning or one of those shows where a guy did a concert in Anaheim, and it was like a drive-in movie theater. Like people
like they're
drove
doing
up and
stand-up
they
now.
watched the concert, and that'll work. That doesn't work if you're supposed to be saying hi to Scooby Doo. Wave at Scooby Doo from a distance.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. But, so many things have changed, Hannes. Obviously, and that I never did a story worthy unless the guest was right in front of me. I always wanted to see the guest straight on. They had to be live. People would ask me all the time, can I come on your show? But they were in New York or London or whatever, and they couldn't. Well, now it's wide open. And I think that nobody's going to travel for these, for interviews or book launches and stuff anymore at all, because they're real. Like last night I've been I host events for Skylight Books here in Los Angeles, in Los Feliz. And I've been doing all the virtual book launches. And last night there were 326 people at this book launch I hosted. We don't fit 326 people in our store. We could only fit 65.
Yeah.
And so now we do a book launch, and there were people there from Sydney, Australia, from Sweden, and authors were thrilled. So as we move forward, who is ever gonna get on a plane and travel around to launch their book when you could go online and reach 10 times as many people? Especially
with books, because authors have to go, and you're gonna get 2 dozen people. And it's not, I mean, if you're promoting a movie, you're probably still going to go fly to New York and get on Seth Meyers or something. But you're right. Everything isn't bad about this. I mean, if I could go to a movie theater right now, I'd have no complaints about my life at all. We closed the dining rooms, but we could still eat outside at restaurants, and that's fine. And I've done that and felt fine. Movie theaters literally are what I miss. I'm sick of watching movies in my own home. I'm sick of it. But other than that, this not working and this being at home a lot, or being able to let's drive out to anywhere just to see something different. It's I don't mind that. And you're right about this technology. It does, it enables people to promote things from, now you can have a guest from London on. I know that, Mick Jagger, I know, was always bugging you to be on Storyworthy, and he said, fucking Mick, if you're not willing to fly out here and come to my apartment, you can kiss my ass, Mick Jagger, in your leather pants. I remember that, and I said, you know what, I'm backing you up 100%. Because really, I want Pete Townsend.
You're so funny.
But,
okay, what else?
By the way, you just coughed, which you'll probably cut out. But it's that's the also thing is anytime you get a sneeze, you're just looking around if you want to hold up a sign that says, I'm not sick to people.
I know. I did just have a full physical last week and a bunch of blood work done and stuff. I don't know why I'm saying that, but I'm healthy.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I know. I thought of going and getting a test, even though I have not had any symptoms. But I am curious.
Oh, you haven't been tested at all?
No.
Oh, go get tested. It's so easy and it's totally free. I got my results in 24 hours. We pulled up to Dodger Stadium and got tested, and then we got our results back. And I know, this was on July 2nd, and I know that, yes, of course, I could have got the virus July 3rd, but I know as a baseline that I didn't have it on July 2nd. So now if I would get it in the future, at least I can trace back. I'm going to get one every month. I'm going to get a test every month. I think it's good just to know, and so that you have that information in your, just to share.
And unfortunately,
if you have to.
Yeah. I mean, like that Nick, his last name, the actor who just died, he tested negative twice before he went into the hospital.
Yeah.
It's such a weird.
I know.
Yeah.
Did they figure out where he got that? Did they figure out where he
no.
Tracing is a big part of it.
Yeah, no, I don't. I actually did listen to some of there's a podcast that Zach Braff has about it's a Scrubs and We Watch thing, and I realized that actor and his wife were staying in his guest house.
Wow.
So it was and she tested positive and has never had a symptom.
Wow.
So it's just the whole thing is so weird. So yeah, you're right. It's like to get back to the intellectual exercise of this technology, which hopefully will only get better. This is it's funny because we're having a little problem here every once in a while. We're freezing during this recording, and it's like they always act with computers and stuff like everything's done, and it's just we're in 2001: A Space Odyssey, and we're as far advanced as we can. And then everybody has to go on video and realize Nancy Pelosi has the worst Wi-Fi in the world because she's old and she doesn't give a shit. This news guy was like, they've got money. And she's trying to interview Nancy Pelosi, and she's like, it's just like she's got the weakest Wi-Fi and some piece of shit computer, and it's like, it's not done. And when it gets done, yeah, there'll be a lot of the virtual stuff, like you say.
So
go ahead,
I have
sorry.
an outdoor area. You came over a couple months ago before you went to Georgia. You can come over and we can social distance in the yard, as it were. I mean, we
Yeah,
can
that's true.
see each other. So you guys do leave the house, come over here, I'll come over there. I mean, we can see each other. We just have to be across the way.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's just, and you get into, it's funny because I got back and then I was sort of like for 2 weeks. I was like, well, you get the 2 weeks in your head. It's like, okay, I just flew. I'm not going to see anybody for 2 weeks. And then you just get stuck in a little loop in your house. And then you forgot what day it is.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, where am I? What is happening? How long has it been since we got back?
I know.
It's such a, that's the weirdest thing is not knowing, like today is Friday.
I know, but it could be any day because the weather's always the same in LA. The kids aren't in school, which was always a calendar. No school.
Yeah.
The weather's the same. I don't know if it's Wednesday or Tuesday. I don't even know. It's easy to forget.
Yeah. No. It's that's got to be the weirdest thing, and it's got to suck for people who have been working, essential workers.
Oh,
because the rest of us are puttering around, forgetting about dealing with people. It's just the fact the rest of us are like, I don't know what day it is. Oh, every day blends, and they're like, motherfucker, I'm going to Ralph's every day.
It's just one of those things, Hannes, that you would have said to me, like we used to talk about 9/11, how it was just like, if you pitched it in a movie, I would say, no, it's too outrageous. It would never happen. It's a dumb idea. And then it happened. And now here we are in a global pandemic. I mean, it's just unbelievable this is happening in our lifetimes.
Well, it is, and it isn't. For instance, okay, so my mother-in-law, she had been reading books about the 1918 pandemic for years and telling us about it. And it's like,
really?
Yeah, because, what's funny is you don't hear about it that much. Like it wasn't, I think everybody wanted to forget it happened. I wonder if that's going to happen to us because, you would think that books and movies in the 20s and 30s would reference back to this terrible time. And nobody mentions it. There's nobody in a play written in 1929 going, boy, remember 10 years ago when nobody said anything. So it's like it really isn't that odd when you think about the Earth being like, listen, there's too many of you fucking people. There's just too many people, and that's a real problem.
How many people died in the Spanish flu?
Spanish flu. Sorry, this is my bad Trump imitation. About 1,000. The literal numbers, I don't know. If you get her on the phone, she would have the numbers for you. But they were just stacking bodies up on. Now we have refrigerated trucks to hide these bodies, but they were just stacking coffins on porches.
Oh God!
I mean, they're just it's.
I was going to say, is it like Monty Python? Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead.
I don't know if it was that bad, but it was bad, and I think that people being, this kind of thing is that we are spoiled by not only being Americans and being in the second half and then the first half of the 21st century, all this technology, all this ease. Our lives are so, even though the poorest person in America has a life that is so easy compared to the vast majority of human existence. And so we're spoiled. We're like, something absolutely terrible can't affect everybody at once. Yes, it can.
Yeah.
And we are just, instead of saying we're unlucky now, we should be saying we've been incredibly lucky.
That you have such a good attitude about this stuff, Hannes. It's the same as you always used to say, "I can't believe there's not more car accidents." You always said
Well, I
that.
was said, right. No, what I was said was every time somebody drives through the front window of a 7-Eleven, that I can't believe that doesn't happen every day. And now that we've seen how incredibly stupid people are, I'm amazed it doesn't happen 10 times a day. How are people able to drive down the street? These fucking people can't get it through their head to wear masks. They believe anything on Twitter,
I know.
anything. And this is something I should say. I've been thinking about this recently, and I don't know what to do with this idea. You know how there's the idea of the functioning alcoholic,
Right.
the functioning drug addict? I believe that this country has a gigantic amount, more than I ever thought possible, of functionally mentally ill people.
Yeah.
Like they can function in society, they can do jobs, they can seem normal. But then you realize people are like, reading about pedophilia online and believing that every single famous person who just happens to disagree with them politically is a pedophile. And not only are they all pedophiles, but they're all part of the same ring. And they're
running out of the pizza shop, right?
That was only part of it. Now there's a new thing going on where they're just it's called Q. There's something called QAnon, and if you look it up on you look it up on Twitter, and you won't believe what people are writing with complete and utter seriousness, and of course devaluing the fact that pedophilia is in fact a horrible problem. But what they're saying is, well, Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep and Hillary Clinton are all in a vast conspiracy together. It's like, and that's just one of them. And then there's other ones where the reason that the virus exists is that Bill Gates created it so he could give you his vaccine, which he created 10 years ago. And in the vaccine is a tracking device, right. You haven't heard this? Mm-mm. The idea is that there's a tracking device in the vaccine, so they will be able to track you. And of course, the joke is that people are writing this on Twitter on their iPhones, which has a tracking device. You're already tracked. It's like if you were worried about people finding you, it's over. Everybody that you have a social security number, the government knows your address. You have a computer in your pocket that you carry everywhere that listens to you all the time and puts ads on your phone. It's like when I first started talking about whiskey like 3 years ago, when I was in a bar and I went, that looks like an interesting whiskey. Picked up my phone and there was an ad for whiskey on my Instagram. It's listening all the time. It's over. It's all over. And for them to be coming up with this weird, like, why would you need a vaccine when you're carrying it voluntarily? Anyhow, what was my point? People are idiots.
No,
that was my point.
I know. People really are. Listen, I miss you. I miss you so much. I mean, I know you live in the valley and you're married, but I still miss you, and I wish we could see each other more often.
I know, and I really don't, I became the Valley married guy, and I don't really see a lot of people at all, especially, and then this has like put the kibosh. But yeah, I'm just, I was working and then coming home and collapsing.
Yeah.
And now I'm just collapsing.
I have this new show you may have heard about on Sunday nights called The Story-Worthy Hour of Power. You guys go over to storyworthypodcast.com. You'll find out about who's on the show this week. Hannes, I'd love to have you on.
Absolutely.
Basically, there's five storytellers. I'm one of them. So 5 people tell 10-minute stories, and it's 1 hour of a lot of fun, live entertainment. It's super fun. We then post those shows, go up onto YouTube. But the really exciting part is that after the Story-Worthy Hour of Power at 7:00 on Sunday nights, we play Story Smash. And I got to tell you, man, it is as funny as ever, Hannes.
All right.
And I didn't want to put it out right away when the pandemic happened because I didn't want to make it cheesy. And I didn't want people to say like, well, that sucked. And what has she been talking about all these years? That wasn't fun at all. I really wanted to get it perfected. So I ordered black flats for my apartment here, and I got more lights. And now we bring out the table and we bring out the clock comes out and the music goes on and it's all happening. Like my whole dining room is now my stage, my studio, and we are playing Story Smash. Danny Zucker's back. Blaine Capatch's back.
Nice.
Every Sunday night. You guys have to tune in. Go over to storyworthypodcast.com. You can get tickets there. And there's always a free option. This is the love in my heart. There's always a free option. You don't have to pay. And honestly, last week we had over 100 people there, and I think it's going to be a hit,
That's
pandemic
fantastic.
hit.
A pandemic hit. I will take advantage of suffering masses, and I will entertain them.
Well, listen, no, but that goes back to I only have a couple of skills. One of my skills is I have an ability to bring people together, to make people laugh, and to forget about what's going on for 2 hours every Sunday night.
And I'm by the fire, you're dancing, and when people bring back, what they've hunted, I go, really? That's the best you could do? That's pretty much, I sit and I criticize people for their hunting skills, and that's pretty much that's the world of a cave for us.
Listen, you've been tweeting a lot more, and I appreciate that. You guys follow Hannes Phinney over on Twitter at HannesPH, right?
HANNESPH.
Yeah,
that's it.
Great. Follow Hannes Phinney over on Twitter. He's been very funny lately, so keep that up, Hannes. Honestly, you're very funny.
Yeah, I've been, well, yeah, that's the thing is when you're at home, you're like, well, I guess I'll do this. And then I found a picture the other day from 3 years ago. It came up like, here's your memory of me wearing a cheese head top hat with a multicolored cow at the Wisconsin Cheese Mart in Milwaukee.
Well, sure.
And then I put that up. And it's funny, I learned from somebody else, some much younger guy at work. It's like, always ask a question. If you ask a question, people feel compelled to answer it. So I've got like 75 responses to this picture, where if I just put it up and went, here I am, I look funny, there'd be like 4 people would go, you do look funny.
Well, everybody handles their social media different, but I hear what you're saying. I think that's a good idea. Ask questions.
It's because I said, what state was this picture taken in? Wrong answers only.
Right.
Which is me stealing anyhow, because people say that shit all the time. And by the way, 50% of the answers, confusion, state of confusion.
That's
and the
funny.
other 25% state of intoxication. And then
that's funny.
A couple where people tried to be funny and they weren't.
Yeah.
And I still like it. I know, like, good try.
And then you block them.
I'm criticizing them.
You block them.
Yeah, I block them. Yeah, I block them.
All right, listen, we got to wrap it up. But thank you so much. I'm really happy to check in with you. We should do this at least every year. At least, really.
Absolutely. Cool. Absolutely. And this, I got to say, I'll say this. I had to get up for me early, like 8 a.m., which, I've been getting up at noon every day. But it's like the idea that I only had to come over here into this room to do this really made a difference.
I know.
Because if I had to drive over the hill,
I know,
I would have been like, oh, I got to get up at 7:30 and I'm so tired and I got to drive. And it's like, this is much easier because I can just go back to bed now.
I hear you. All right, you guys, I got to wrap it up. Thank you so much again for tuning into Storyworthy. It's been really a lot of fun checking in with Hannes Phinney. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of Hannes Phinney, my name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a Storyworthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
What's that place you've always wanted to try? Well, you're there, sharing plates with...
Just one bite.
Or on second thought, maybe not sharing. It's that good. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
The General Insurance presents Shower Ballads by Shaq.
And I'm gonna keep on loving you.
'Cause it's the only thing I wanna do.
Turns out, everyone does sound better in the shower. And it turns out, The General is a quality insurance company that's been saving people money for nearly 60 years.
I just wanna keep on loving you.
For a great low rate and nearly 60 years of quality coverage, make the right call and go with The General.
The General Auto Insurance Services, Inc., an insurance agency, Nashville, Tennessee. Some restrictions apply.